Hey guys, we're back with another episode of Venture with Joe and Cody. I'm with my sidekick, Cody Wilhelm with Residential Mortgage,
Yeah,
and with me, Joe Skipper, EXP
that's right.
Realty, owner of Skipper Realty Group. Sounds so much cooler. CEO
CE.
of Skipper Realty Group.
Yeah.
Hey man, it's been a little bit since we've done a podcast. We need to get back consistent with this. Summers are terrible for us. Great for us, but terrible because we have family. Not terrible because we have family, but you know what I mean. It's just,
They're
it's
amazing
busy.
and
It's
terrible
busy.
for our
Yes.
coordinating.
I'm not using the worst words for all of this. No, it's just a busy time for both of us and not only work, but we have family stuff. And so hopefully we get kind of back into the groove in this fall once kids are back in school, they're doing their things. So
Yes.
anyways, yes, we're
Summer in
back.
the Pacific Northwest, you have to take advantage of it.
It's my
Yeah.
and you and I have multiple times been like, "Hey, I'm on vacation, but let's do a podcast when we're on vacation." And we're
Right.
like, "Never mind." Like I'm not doing a podcast while we're on vacation.
Yeah, that time comes up and you're like, "Ooh, this is not a
Yeah,
great
not good for me.
like
Not
on the
good.
lake." Yeah, I guess we can
Yes.
try it.
Yeah. So we're not that unfortunately we're not that dedicated, but we
No,
should. Yeah, I don't want to say we should be. It was a good
we
summer.
want to be.
Yes,
The
we want
want
to be.
is there. It's just the
It's there.
you know,
But hey, that just makes the what is it? Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
and I feel it
We
100%.
are going to put out the content that's going to blow your mind when we do
Yes.
get on here. And so, yeah, today I wanted to talk real quickly with you. I don't know if it's going to be a long one or a short podcast, but um, we get a lot. I get a lot. You probably don't get as much, but I get a ton of like. I say, hey, you got to get pre-approved for a loan. That's a first step on doing anything in a buying process. You have to talk to a lender.
Yeah.
99% of people have gone on Zillow and said, how much can I afford? And typed in generic numbers, and Zillow pops out this amazing number that they're like, boom, baby,
Yeah.
I can do this. And
Right.
then they end up talking to a lender and get the real thing. But um, they're so hesitant to talk to a lender. So I wanted to go over today, and I think it's because of it's a fear of multiple things, but a fear of one, telling some random person all your information, and you don't know them and don't know what to do. And two, I think it's like it's a feeling of a lot of commitment.
Mhm.
I think they feel like if I talk to a lender, that's like now I have to buy a house. Now I'm just thinking about it. I just want to see what I can afford. Talking to a lender is like a nightmare because I don't know if I'm going to buy a house. And
Yeah.
so I just want to ease any tension with people over this podcast. One of how simple it is to do it, how uncommitted you are. You are committed as a lender to help them, but how
Mhm.
uncommitted you are to say, look, you're not signing your name in blood. It's, here's what it is. Here's the process. And then just any advice you have for people for the pre-approval process. Because I think that we have talked about it on our live streams and different recordings before. But as a buyer, if you can't afford a house right now, this is your primary time to look and to buy. Lenders are offering their own little quirks and
Mhm.
perks. Sellers are offering closing cost credits to buy down your rate to get it to a more normal rate or a more normal in your head rate versus the
Mhm.
7%. Um, yeah, it's just a good time to buy. Sellers are more willing than ever to work with buyers. So if you are thinking about it, if you're concerned about the pre-approval process, Cody's here to demystify some of the things that
Yes.
we have heard or what you think is going to happen. So let's go over basically how much is the commitment. So the number one thing is like, man, I'm just looking. I don't
Mhm.
want to bother Cody. I don't want to bother anyone. I'm just looking. Zillow said I could afford $500,000. I just don't want to bother him. What's it like? Like, how simple is the process for you as a lender and as the buyer coming to you?
Well, in my head, it's very, very simple. And that's because it is, and it's a normal thing for me because it's what I do all the time. I think from a buyer's perspective, it feels overwhelming because you're like, I mean, the amount of times I hear people say that they need to have 2 years worth of pay stubs and 20% down, and I have to be at my job for this long. Like, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. So I think going into it, some people are like, I don't even know that we have everything. But the reality is, most of the time, we can get you a pre-approval number. It might not be the number that you're looking for or hoping for, but it's very rare that it's a situation of you don't qualify for anything. And usually the only time that that would happen is if your credit score was really, really low and it just doesn't fit the box for any, there's just no option for it. Outside of that, you're gonna qualify for something. But I always tell people too, like you can do a pre-qual which is just more of a verbal, like, tell me how much you make, tell me what your credit scores are, what you think they are, tell me these couple things, and I can tell you based on that, here's approximately what you would qualify for and what a payment would look like. So sometimes it's just even a matter of like having the conversation. It doesn't have to be a formal application. I mean, I prefer to do the formal application because a lot of times if the numbers do line up with what you're looking for and you really are wanting to buy, then you need to go through that process of
Anyways,
we
yeah.
had all this conversation, we already went over all this stuff. Now I need you to put it on paper and follow it up with documents. So sometimes it can be a little bit repetitive if the numbers are if they're like, "Oh wow, we're in better shape than we thought. Let's do this." Then we're just taking that formal step. But as far as a commitment goes, there's no commitment that you are making to work with me. Obviously, that's my hope. That's all of our hope is that we continue to work, but there's no commitment. You're not signing some type of agreement that says I will use you and I'm locking into something with you. Really, the only time that you're signing that is when you are signing your final papers at closing. And once it's recorded, then it's official. But up until that point, there's really no like you guys have a buyer's agent agreement or like a listing agreement. There's no formal agreement for the lending side. So you're really not locked into anything. So the process itself is actually really simple for doing a formal pre-approval. It's going to be, we need to be able to run credit. So we need to see what your credit scores are and what your debts are. We need to be able to view your income for the last month. So we get 30 days worth of pay stubs so we can see what that your last month is consistent. And then we view your last 2 years U2s. So we're just checking, making sure that we have income history from 2 years and that there's not this drastic decline from 2 years ago to now. We're seeing what your current income is to make sure that everything still lines up. We're checking your credit and we're looking at your debts. And then from there, it's all just kind of funnels together and the puzzle pieces kind of start to come together. And it seems overwhelming, I think, because you're getting a lot of documents and it's like, we got to get bank statements and we got
Yeah.
to get pay stubs and there's so much. It feels overwhelming, but it's kind of like anything else. If you just write it out on a list and you look at it and you go, all right, well, this isn't as overwhelming as I thought. I need to fill out an application. I need to get a few documents.
Yeah, log into your
And
bank,
then,
log into
yeah,
your tax stuff, you
exactly.
pull it, and that's it.
Yeah. So it's really a pretty straightforward process. Most of the time, I mean, really for most loan options, a pre-approval can be done in 30 minutes, right? Like if there's no variation to the income, if it's like you got pay stubs, you got everything, full credit, there's no issues, there's no changing of anything. I mean, pulling a credit report is going to take you a couple minutes. Reviewing income, especially if they're salaried and there's no
Yeah,
variation, like it can be a very, very quick process. If you're self-employed, if there's business returns, if there's each layer that goes on can add a little bit more to it. But in general, it's really not a big, overwhelming process. And
and
I
what
always encourage people to do it, even if they're like, we're a year away from
for
even
sure.
thinking that we want to do it. I'm like, hey, if you can and you feel comfortable doing it now, I would do it now because last thing you want to see happen is they wait for a year and they fill out the application to get pre-approved and then they find out that their credit's not where they thought it was or
For
their
sure.
income that they thought was really good and stable isn't actually or who knows what it
Or you
might
need a
be.
fix. You need something to
Yeah,
fix that's super easy, but it might take some time, like a credit score,
yeah,
maybe get your credit score up over the next year or something like that. That'll change your approval to this or, your
yes.
monthly payments to this and things like that. So, yeah, it is a good idea to do it. And I think that, what people, maybe are not able to understand or don't understand in the first place is like a pre-approval is a true representation from a lender. A lender puts their name on a piece of paper saying, pending anything crazy, we're good
Hmm.
at this amount of money to loan. We think we're pretty confident that you're going to be a good buyer for this amount of money. And
Yeah,
that when you're purchasing a home is now standard. It used to be like, oh, that's like a big perk to say you're pre-approved or now it's
yeah,
standard. So whether you like getting pre-approved or not, to write an offer, there is no other option but attaching a pre-approval letter to the offer. And so Zillow, you cannot attach a Zillow report saying that this is the income you make and
yeah,
this is my credit score according to me. No one cares.
yes,
And so it's Zillow, and I'm not knocking Zillow. Zillow is a good way to start in general, just to kind of be like, okay, these are all my little inputs and see what Zillow pops out. But the only true way to do it is to go through a lender, and the only The only offer that's gonna be accepted is one that's pre-approved through a lender. So, how long is it so you how long from application to, say I still need to log into my bank, get my bank statements, get my tax stuff. How long do you say it generally takes to get pre-approved or to get the documents into you to get pre-approved?
If somebody's organized, which I'd say half the time people are organized, they're usually getting, because when they fill out the application, I will usually send them a list of what they need to get. But when they fill out the application, our system notifies them. It kind of has its own little checklist for them, so they can upload through there. So a lot of times people will upload, I would say half, if not more, of the documents that are needed. And then it's usually I'll get everything worked up and follow up with them and show, hey, here's still a couple things that we need, and then that'll come. Some people are not really organized, and so it ends up being maybe a week's worth of time of I got to find my taxes, or
Yeah.
my W-2s are somewhere, or, bank
Yeah.
statements. I don't know. It kind of varies, but most of what we need aside from taxes, which we don't usually need taxes. If you're self-employed or if you have rental income, then we'll get taxes. But if you're just a W-2 employee, that you don't really have anything, our need for taxes is zero for most people. So most of what we need is stuff that you have access to just through the internet. So most of the time it doesn't take very long. It's just, is it on people's radar enough to want to do it?
Yeah.
Because it ends up being a follow-up of a couple different times. Hey, when you get a few minutes, can you make sure you pull your
For
pay
sure.
stubs and send those over? Because I can work up a pre-approval with no documents, but I can't feel good about issuing a pre-approval
Yeah.
without verifying the pay and verifying that they do have the money and everything. So to me, it doesn't slow down the process of doing what I need to do, but it does slow down the process of me being able to say to you, as the person who's helping them find the house, like, hey Joe, I've ran through this, but I don't have anything to support this yet. So from what I see, everything looks great, but until
Yeah.
I can, like, physically see it. And from a buyer's standpoint too, to kind of go back to what you were talking about with the whole Zillow thing, I don't see a reason why, other than just kind of being intimidated by it, why you wouldn't want to get an official pre-approval if you really are shopping, and or even if you're not, even if you just want to find out, because I feel like there's just as much value in the people that cannot qualify for what they're looking for right now to be able to go through that process and understand where they're off, what they need to do,
Yeah.
and what that timeline might look like. Because I think that there's a fear around, I'm probably not going to get qualified, so I don't want to hear that answer. I'd almost just rather, like, pretend like I don't know, and eventually when I get there, I'll try it out. But for me, I mean, that's what happened to my wife and I when I remember the first time we started trying to look at a house. I want to say it was 2000, it was like 2011, 2012 maybe. Um and my credit was terrible because I didn't know anything. I hadn't been in the
Yeah.
industry. I didn't know what credit really did. And we found a house that we were just kind of casually looking at, and reached out to a lender, and he's like, your credit is not where it needs to be. So you need to work on this. And it's like, as much as it sucks to hear that because you're emotionally like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
wow, we might actually be able to buy this. It's such a big thing because it quickly puts it off your radar. And now it's like, okay, I need to really actually focus on these things, because there's nothing worse than falling in love with a home and finding out that you can't buy it.
No, for
And you
sure.
go,
For
man, why
sure.
didn't I do this? Why? What was the reason why we didn't do this a year or two ago to put ourselves in a good place to do it? Now we have to wait. And so,
Yeah. Yeah, and and I get it. It's an insecurity that telling a person that you either don't know, or you maybe even worse, that when you do know, like,
sure. Yeah.
here's my financial life laid out in front of you. It's a very
Right.
vulnerable spot.
Yeah.
But rest assured, Cody's seen it all and done it all,
Yes.
and most lenders have seen it all and done it all and been like, it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
no one is judging you for
No.
whatever comes up on that thing. We've all been there and all had our issues and maybe still have issues.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I don't know if it's a thing now, but this is more personal, and maybe not personal, but a personal question is pre-qualification versus pre-approval. Most people think they're hand in hand. Lenders are
Yeah.
like, no, like, don't
Right.
think of it that way. And Christina, being an old lender, is always like, are they pre-approved or pre-qualified? I was like, it's all the same thing. Okay,
Right.
stop with your. She's like, no, it's not.
You
Is
and your
it?
words.
It sounds exactly the same to the average person. Are pre-qual and pre-approval okay, first question is, are they different? Second question is the pre-qual even a thing anymore?
No, I mean, I guess technically it is. It doesn't carry any weight. I think for being able to move forward, because a pre-qualification is essentially me having a conversation with this person that's wanting to buy, and they're telling me what their situation
Yeah.
is, and based on what they're telling me, I'm telling them what they could, in theory, qualify for.
Almost like the Zillow. Like, kind of just,
It's
like,
exactly the same
generic,
thing.
like, "Hey, these are my debts, these are my incomes, I think my
Yeah,
credit score is this," and it's
yeah,
Cody saying, "Okay,
right.
pre-qual of this,"
Yes.
but it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything, no.
Okay.
A pre-approval, though, means that I, as the loan officer, have actually viewed everything. We've looked at credit, we've gone through your income, we've ran it through the automated underwriting system. Everything's been verified. So essentially, at that point, all that needs to happen is we need to get a property to approve and just have an underwriter verify the documents that I've gone
Okay.
through and done. So it's like you're three-quarters of the way there, whereas a pre-qual, and I will say too, some people with a pre-qual, they're salaried, they know what their credit is. Like, a pre-qual can
Can be,
essentially
yeah.
can
It
be the same, it's just
can
not
be the same,
official.
yeah.
Like, I couldn't tell them, "Hey, you're
This
good
is
to
good to
go."
go.
I'd
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
"Everything looks great, but I do have to get these things in order to actually give you a letter."
So you don't issue pre-qual letters, you only are pre-approval.
Mm-mm.
And that's
Yep.
probably standard, I think.
Yeah.
I think in
I
the
don't
real estate world, maybe the lending world, it doesn't happen, but I feel like the real estate world, the pre-qual and pre-approval is the same thing. Like they're
Yeah.
intertwined in when people talk about it in the real estate side of things. Are
Yeah.
you pre-qualified? And they're like, yeah, I'm
Sure.
pre-qualified. And it's
Yeah.
like that to me is like you're pre-approved. You know,
Yes.
is that
Which
similar, or do you guys delineate still? Like
we do, just because there is, I think, maybe
there's
more
a
of a
difference.
meaning to it
Yeah, yeah,
from our side, but
yeah.
I can totally see from the outside of the lending perspective, like pre-qualified, pre-approved,
It's all
what is the difference? It's essentially the same
we're
thing.
thinking of the same thing. Like when I say pre-qualified,
Yeah,
I'm thinking you have a letter, which
right.
to get a letter from a lender, it's a pre-approval. But
Yes,
yeah, but when I'm talking pre-qualified, I'm not thinking you just had a casual conversation with a
right.
lender. It's like you need to get pre-qualified or so
Yes.
so
And I
yeah,
take it as the same thing as well. Like, if
yeah,
somebody else is talking to me about it, like, "Hey, what do I need to do to get pre-qualified?" I'm just assuming that everybody is meaning pre-approved.
pre-approved. Yeah. Because it is to the average person, that's
It's just
such a
getting
semantic. It's like it doesn't
yes.
mean anything. So I
Yeah,
totally get that.
and I don't think that realistically, like, pre-qualified in our business is really such a we essentially pre-qualify everybody, like, the first time we
The
have
conversation.
conversations with
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
or at least get an idea of what that would look like. So I think for most lenders, it's really not even much of a thing because it doesn't carry any weight, and it's like, again, it's a nice, useful thing to be able to have for
Yeah.
people that are really they do not want to commit. Maybe they know that they're in good shape, or
Mhm.
they're just not ready yet, but they wanted to at least have the first conversation. So I think the pre-qual thing is really more of just like there's a word for it,
Well,
but
it's leading on that. And tell me if I'm wrong here, is another benefit, a huge benefit to a pre-approval from you guys, is that is when you can start getting into the nitty-gritty of what you not only what you can afford, but hey, we have these programs because you are
mhm,
this or
yeah,
because you are that. So this is when so people are like 20% down, the traditional, that 20% down, this is what I have to have in savings, blah, 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 blah. This is where Cody or a lender can basically see your stuff, pre-approve you for this, and then start playing around with different programs and or down payments and or rates and all sorts of stuff. So go into that of kind of what the
yeah,
pre-approval opens up to the buyer once they're pre-approved.
yeah, it really does, because now we know the specifics on what your credit scores are, what your debt to income is, what your official income is, because there are programs that are income based. So if you make more than whatever the requirement is, you might not qualify for that program. Or, credit score, not so much. Credit scores do kind of open up different opportunities, but it really does give us the full picture of being able to see, oh, you actually make less money than what you thought you did, which actually works out great because now it does allow you to be able to use this grant program or this option that we didn't think was a possibility. And also, there are different pricing adjustments that are made within, like, in your rate based on income. So if you do have a lower to moderate income, and I'm not talking like low, like minimum wage income, but there are income benefits within the rates. They call them loan level pricing adjustments. And so if you make under a certain percentage of the area median income, you can actually get a discount on your interest rate. So those things do factor in too, because that might be the difference between, that's going to change at that time anyways. So, but it's nice to be able to see that because that might mean you get a 1/4% better on your interest rate. And now your payment differences, and maybe that's the difference between being able to bump up from 350 to 400, and it's like changes your whole parameters of what you're shopping for. So it does open up a lot. And I think it's just like anything. I mean, you're buying the biggest thing you're ever likely going to finance. It's nice to plan it out and understand and really know rather than kind of going, well, let's hope we are where
Yeah.
we need to be.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather have that. Cool. So you're telling me that I can go put an offer in on a house and I don't have anything to worry about. Like I've done everything that I can do. Great. That's going to make me feel good about it rather than, oh boy, I sure hope the financing goes
Yeah.
through on this. Cause if we're doing our job right, there shouldn't be any issues, right? Some stuff's out of our control with property, or if they just quit their job or something out of our control
Mhm.
of what we verified. But if nothing else changes, then there's no reason why that loan shouldn't close and it shouldn't go just as planned.
Okay. I'm gonna ask it even as I'm gonna say it, I feel like an idiot
Do it.
because it's not a hear me
There's
through.
no
Hear
stupid
me
questions,
hear me
Joe.
out here because everyone's gonna be like, "You're an idiot. That's the dumbest." Anyways, first time home buyer programs. Those are generally the what? The 3% down, the 5% down, those low down payments. I'm thinking of a couple clients in particular. Does that, for lack of a better term, does that ever reset? Is a first time home buyer your one time home buyer and then you're done?
Mhm.
That you never get to use that again? Or is it something that say, especially young kids that are like, I bought this crappy little place. I used the first time home buyer program. Now I'm like, is it done? Like, is it, now that you've used it, is it done? Or is there an opportunity to get those similar sort of programs 5 years from then? You really want to buy the house, like your
Sure.
first house.
Yeah. Well, to give you credit here, I thought that the question was gonna be a lot dumber than that, the way that you were phrasing it. It's
Well, it's
actually
like
not a
first
dumb.
time home buyer. You're like, yeah,
Yes.
idiot. It's your first home. You don't get a second
Right.
time home buyer, rate. Like,
My answer is gonna sound more dumb than your question. Because it's actually a really good question because you would assume that first time homebuyer literally means this is the first time I've
that's
ever
it.
bought a
And
home.
first and last time you're ever going to use that
Right.
rate.
So it's a very stupid thing in my opinion. I mean, I like it, but it's stupid that it's labeled this way. If you haven't owned a home in 3 years, you're considered a first time homebuyer.
Okay.
So you do get that option if you have to not have owned a home for 3 years. So you
Okay.
say in your scenario that you were talking about,
You sell
bought a
your house,
house,
wait a few
sold
years.
it, now you're
Yeah.
renting or living with family or whatever it is, and it's
Okay.
been 3 years, then you're considered a first-time home buyer, and any first-time home buyer benefits that come, you get all of
Okay.
those to you.
Okay.
So there's
Okay.
not,
Not so dumb.
I feel like there's a misconception. Maybe that's not the right word. It feels like there should be a lot more incentives for first-time home buyers, and there's just really not. Like, even the down payment assistance programs, most of them don't require you to be a first-time home buyer. They're targeted towards first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
Like one of the 3% down conventional options, you do have to be a first-time home buyer. A lot of them just they're not really a requirement, which I feel like, to me, it they should have incentives. And maybe the market that we're in will start to produce more of those
Yeah.
incentives to kinda help spur things. Because I know before I got started, I'm not sure when it went away. Because I got in the business in 2013, and I wanna say it kinda went away shortly before that. But they were doing, tax incentives where if you were a first-time home buyer and you bought a home in that calendar year, whatever it was, you got like a 10 or 20,000, I don't know what the number was, but it was a decent chunk that you got to use as essentially a write-off on your taxes for that year,
Hmm.
as a credit, which is gonna offset what you're being taxed on. So even something like that, I feel like would kind of help to stimulate things from
Yeah.
the first-time home buyer side of it, but that is a question that I get asked a lot is like, "What do you guys have for first-time home buyers?" You kinda start to look around at everything and you're like,
We just have good stuff.
it's like, I don't wanna take away from the feeling of, like, a first-time home buyer, we have all these
Yeah.
things, but at the same time, like, you don't have to be a first-time
You
home
don't
buyer to
have to be to
use
get the,
90% of these. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's the biggest misconception, and I think it's actually changing. I'm hearing the 20% down is the biggest thing. Like, I don't have
Mhm.
20% down for a house. I don't have 20% down. It's like you
Right.
don't need 20% down. Like, it's
No.
I know that came historically from that, from history, but
Sure.
yeah, there's just so many programs that offer significantly less. So yeah, but that's what a pre-approval will do is kind of get you into that realm of saying, okay, here's your
Mhm.
scenario, here's your money. Here's like 5 different options that we can go to get you either the payment that you want or the down payment you want or a combination of both. And hey,
Yeah,
if the seller's willing to contribute X, then we can do this program or we can, get your rate down to here if so there's just a
yeah,
lot of opportunity that opens up. So that's
it
why the
does.
lender and the agent are so intertwined, and being good with the relationship between the lender and the agent is so important because things can get missed if there is no relationship with that and no one talks, the agent doesn't talk to the lender because they don't know each other, and then you get into a
Yeah,
deal. You could have gotten closing cost credit to buy down a rate. The lender didn't know,
sure.
it's just like it gets super complicated for the average buyer, but I think
Right.
we've talked about this before, is it doesn't have to be Cody and I. It should be Cody and I, but it doesn't have
Yes.
to be. It's just make sure that this complicated process and you don't miss out on something that could save you thousands. And I think
Mhm.
people do it a lot, and but probably people don't even notice. They're like, my monthly payments was fine. Like, but you didn't realize that you could have kept more money in your pocket at the end of the deal, or you didn't realize that
Mhm.
the seller could have paid down your rate from a 2-1 buy down, or some sort of thing that, because there was no communication between the agents and the lender because they don't know each other, or because you
Mhm.
didn't know anything, then I don't know. Just my 2
Yeah.
cents. Just my 2 cents.
No, I'm with you. I think there should always be a good amount of communication back and forth of good understanding between the lender and the agent
Mhm.
of what's preferred here, what can work, what can't work. Do they have enough money to be able to do this, to do the down payment and the closing costs? Do we
Yeah.
need to ask for these things? Like,
Yeah.
what conversations have you had with them? What conversations have I had with them? Because usually the collection of those 2 conversations, usually, for one, it gets everybody on the same page,
Yeah.
but it also can open up more doors of, "Hey, here's kinda what I'm thinking," or, "Here's something that they were really, they were hesitant on this. Maybe when we're looking at properties, can we see, where the flexibility is with
For sure.
this?" Or, "Hey, they can't do closing costs. They can do their down payment, but we're gonna have to get the seller to pay those."
For sure.
Obviously, those conversations are much more meaningful beforehand than trying to go back and change things after it's already happened. So,
For sure. Or the
yeah.
opposite. Like, I found some people have been saving forever, have 20% down, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, like
Yeah.
let's work with this. You don't need to use that 20% to the
Yes.
down payment. You can, we can, and this market, you can ask for closing costs. So you know, you could come out significantly better, have money for a remodel or have money for whatever you want, the sports car at the end of the deal,
Yeah.
that you didn't think that you could have.
Mhm.
So, it's just really important to get a pre-approval and talk things over with the lender. There is no commitment. I have a caveat. I would say from the agent side, yes, you don't close with that lender until close. However, if you switch lenders mid-transaction,
Yes.
does cause a little bit of issue. The seller has to agree to it. There's a lot more complication on the real estate transaction side. That's
Yeah.
not Cody's fault. That's the transaction side's fault. So there
Sure.
is no commitment, I get that. It's just like we should have it figured out before an offer's made, hopefully.
Yes. I
Though you can switch mid-sale
yes.
to a new lender, it adds a potentially timeline issue, a new
Mhm.
pre-approval, seller has to agree to it, so there's just all sorts of things that can go south.
Yeah. If you're uncertain on the lender that you have chosen for whatever reason that is, find that other lender before you make an
Make an
offer.
offer,
Because
yeah,
yeah, I agree. It makes things messier. And I will say from the side of the lender who is being left too, doing all that work, putting all that time in to get everything squared away and put together, and then have them leave right at the end,
for sure.
it's a little heartbreaking.
Yeah,
So, because
yeah,
we want everybody to
for sure.
feel
Well, and
great.
it messes with the deal, and I'm not saying don't
It
do it.
does,
There's
yeah.
times I think
Right.
I've had maybe 1, maybe, but it didn't go from lender to lender. It went from, like, lender to cash or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah.
It can happen, and, there's no pressure, but it potentially could. So talk it over with your agent.
Yeah.
Say, "Hey, this is
Right.
why I don't want this lender," and then maybe you can rectify some things or do different things, and that lender can help make things work. So,
Right.
yeah, not the
I
end of the
think it
world.
becomes real for people, and it's
Yes.
them not understanding, like, oh, yeah, because it's happened, right? Like, "Hey, we finally got under contract. Now let's start talking to, like, now let's figure out what best deal we can get
Yeah.
on our mortgage."
Yeah.
And it's like,
Oh, I
well, no,
know.
the best time to do that was actually before you got under contract. But I
And
get it though,
and
because
the culprits is your buddy. It's
yes.
always like my buddy.
Yeah.
My buddy has a friend that got me
Huh?
this deal and he got a house
Right.
for this much money, or it's the wife's dad. Like the wife's
Yeah.
dad ruins it in inspection, that is for
Yes,
sure. If he shows up in
man.
inspection, it's like, dang it.
Yep.
Like,
They're not buying
but
this
yeah,
house.
it's the buddy. It's always the
Yeah.
buddy. My buddy
Yep.
did this. My buddy did that. It's like,
Yeah.
where is your buddy? I need to talk to him. Like
Yeah. Right.
they always are the ones that like
Let's
come
look
out of
at
the
this
blue.
paperwork
Yeah, my
because your
buddy got a
buddy was
1%
thinking,
rate, like a
yes,
1%
exactly.
interest rate.
Right.
He's living in a multi-million-dollar home. He got a 1% interest rate. It's like your buddy is imaginary.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Anyways, well, that's helpful, man. That was a good lesson in the pre-approval. I would say, where would people go if they wanted to get to start the pre-approval process with you? Not to put you on the spot of what your website is, but I'm sure you know it.
Yeah, I do actually. It is very easy. It's CodyWilhelmLoans.com.
And that's where they'll start the actual
That's
pre-approval process.
Yep. So that'll take you to my website, which has the application on there, calculators, bunch of information. But the application to get started is on there. And for any of those that are not computer savvy, we can do them over the phone. We can do them in person. So it doesn't have to just be done online, but that's where the majority of them come in from. But yep, CodyWilhelmLoans.com.
Cool. Okay, man. It was good talking to you. Let's
You as
get
well.
let's
Thank
get some
you.
more venture out for the people.
Let's do it. Sounds good.
Okay, and if you are still paying attention, like and subscribe to our podcast so that we can keep putting out this content for you guys.
Absolutely.
Okay, my man. Until next time,
Awesome.
we'll see you later.
All right. Sounds good. Bye.